don't think it can happen to you.
The hit-and-run chase in California, a motorcycle rider witnessing a driver slam into several cars and then speeding away.
It can happen to you within seconds, a blink of an eye.
Tonight about the man suspected of killing a woman in a hit-and-run and his plan to evade justice.
When you take your eyes off the road for just seconds, when you're driving your car, oh, yes, it can happen to you. See, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When the sands of time will run out within your hourglass.
New at 10, a hit and run caught on video, and now a teenager and his family are looking for the driver who took off.
He was a victim of a distracted driver hitting the road while riding his motorcycle going 65 miles per hour. He nearly lost his life. Now on a crusade to help save lives and prevent someone else from becoming a victim, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com and now the host of this podcast, it's Howard Drescher.
All right, welcome. Welcome to another show of DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. I am your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com, and of course, now this podcast show. You can follow me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, at DistractedDBTV, and of course on Facebook, it's DistractedDB. And you can get the shows on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. Just type in the keyword DistractedDB. Oh my goodness. So tell you what, how good was Dawn McKay in the last 4 shows that we did? I think she was awesome. She wrote a fantastic book. And I thank her for being my guest for the last 4 shows. And there's something about that can be said. It's important to get that information out there. It's very important to get that kind of information out there because it's very important that you know what to do and you know what could be in front of you and what is also behind you if and when you get into an accident. And hopefully you never have to experience what Dawn has, what millions and millions of other people have. But Dawn didn't let it really define her. She decided to do something about it, and she wrote a book. She could have moped around the house. She could have done everything like that. But she said, no, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to make other people aware of it. So she wrote the book, Talk Crash to Me. And if you're new to this podcast show, or you're finding it out for the very first time, I myself was a victim of a distracted driver back in 2010, 2011, when I hit the 91 freeway doing about 70 or 65 miles an hour, maybe 70, 65 miles an hour. I'm a walking SIG alert. According to the California Highway Patrol, I am a walking SIG alert. I am so lucky to be alive today. I did something about it. I decided myself I will go on out there and I will do a podcast show. Of course, back then, podcasts were relatively new. Now they're a dime a dozen. And for the ones that do follow me, I appreciate that. And the ones that are new to the podcast world of Distracted Drivers Busted, I am your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com. And of course, now this podcast show. I used to have a 501c3 nonprofit. I dissolved that just really halfway through the pandemic here in California, or at least in America, where everything was shut down. I couldn't do any kind of fundraising. I couldn't get with people. So I decided it's probably best in my best interest is to end my nonprofit. So I did. And I decided that I'll still continue to do these podcast shows. I eventually got rid of my website because I couldn't manage the website myself. Plus, still doing my own initial work at my job and still understand how to maintain a website where it's least cost effective, because everything would have came out of my pocket then. And I said, I'm good with just doing the podcast shows and being guests on other people's shows. And, so that's what I decided to do. And again, for Dawn McKay, again, I appreciate her for being my guest for the last 4 weeks. It was truly my honor and privilege. And by the way, Dawn, just to let you know, I did receive your Christmas card. There was no return address. So from me, I should say, to you, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I appreciate you sending me the card. I didn't have your address or else I would have returned it. But that could be another time and another place. And hopefully, if with this pandemic thing ever ends, I would love to get up to California or Canada to see you. Anyways, I hopefully we have that time. And Dawn, thank you very much for being my special guest on DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. You were a fantastic guest, and I hope that at least if we saved one person's life, we did our job. I thank you again. All right, you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. Well, from kind of a one happy note into a very sad and disappointing note, because when I come back, we're going to have a story from WAFF 48 out, I believe it's in Dallas, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound that we're about to use. But I do have to tell you that it does not resonate with me very well because of the fact that 2 people died, 3 people were drunk, and the survivor, she's talking about it.
You're listening to the DistractedDrivers.com podcast. We'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived in Philadelphia. Local time is 3:05 p.m. and the temperature is 67 degrees. At this time, you are now free to use your cellular devices.
You know that feeling when you get to turn your phone on after the plane lands? You can have that feeling every time you drive. Make sure your cell phone is stowed away whenever you are behind the wheel.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Hey, it's me, your cell phone. We need to talk about something serious. I know you love me, I know you like using me wherever you are, but I feel like this isn't working out when you're driving. I know you may think that it's possible to focus both on me and the road, but I just don't feel the same way. I think we should spend time away from each other when you're driving. It's for the best.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Honey, are you ready to go to the party? We're late.
What? Yeah, don't worry. I'll be ready in 5 minutes, babe.
Really? Can you get off the phone? I'm already ready. We're going to be late.
Yeah. Don't worry. I'm almost done.
Let's go. Come on.
Oh, okay, honey. Let's go.
Can you be ready next time? I feel like I'm always ragging on you to get ready for these types of parties.
Yeah.
Isn't the man supposed to be waiting on the lady anyway?
I'm sorry, babe. I know I say this all the time, but I promise. Next time, I really promise next time I'll be ready, and I'll be ready to go by the time you get home.
Gosh.
Let me see who that is. I'm waiting to see if my friend is actually going to be at this party.
No! Leave your phone alone. You know that scared me last time. You nearly hit someone walking in a crosswalk.
What? No, you're crazy. Look, I told you don't tell me what to do. I got this.
Stop the car. Stop it now. I just can't be with someone who doesn't care about my life, not to mention their own.
Babe, wait, come back. This isn't happening, is it?
Now, back to the DistractedDrivers.com podcast.
All right, welcome back to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. Again, I'm your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com, and of course, now this podcast show. You can follow me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, at DistractedDBTV, And, of course, on Facebook, Distracted DB. And you can get this show along with all the other archive shows on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and just type in the keyword Distracted DB. All right. So, as you all know, the holidays are around us, and everybody's going to be going out drinking and office parties. If some people are starting to do that again, there's going to be people out there just drinking just to do it because of the fact that they can actually get out and celebrate and do whatever. I'm going to tell you right now, here in California, there is going to be some, checkpoints. And it's going to be the maximum reinforcement time, law enforcement time, and it's probably 48 hours during the Christmas holiday time because the officers are like you. They have families, they have friends, they have a job, they like to get up in the morning, go to work, and they want to come home at the end of the day. And what they don't want to have is somebody screwing up their night by getting drunk and totally screwing up the night for somebody else, if not for themselves. Because you got to remember, you're out there, once you get drunk and intoxicated and you get behind the wheel, you're driving a weapon. It's about a 4,000-ton weapon. And yet, you start doing 60, 70 miles an hour. At least out here in California, you guys have a tendency to go a lot faster than that, and which is not a good sign. And yet, you think it's okay to get behind the wheel and drive. Not so. Here's a story that I got from WAFF 48 out in Dallas, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound. Here's how I would say that someone's party ended up not being a good thing.
A stalled car in the middle of Central Expressway near Fitzhugh Avenue started a deadly chain of events.
There was a car just sitting there in the middle of the freeway with their lights off, like no hazard lights or no brake lights.
Police say Grayson Chong was driving that car and was drunk. Carissa Velasco and her 10-year-old son were driving home from a friend's house. They were trying to get around the stalled car when police say Jose Salazar slammed into them. Police say he, too, was drunk. Carissa called 911, and while talking to the operator, police say Marcellus Brown, speeding in his Audi, slammed into all of them and hitting a fourth car that was trying to avoid the crashes. The people in that car were killed.
When the car flew over us, I thought it was going to land on us, and I just see smoke.
Carissa says she couldn't see her son.
I was screaming.
He ended up being okay. Carissa says when she got out of the car, Salazar, the first suspected drunk driver who hit her, was on the phone.
I wanted to run up and hit him for not paying attention.
Police arrested Salazar and Chong for DWI and arrested Marcellus Brown for 2 counts of intoxication manslaughter. According to the arrest affidavit, police say Brown told them, "I lost control," and when asked if he'd been drinking, he said yes. Dallas police say they did have their 8-member DWI squad out Sunday morning, but acknowledge they need more officers, especially during the holiday season, looking for drunk drivers.
So the goal is to not only deter through arrest, but also for people to know that we're out there.
Dallas police are also trying to get a grant that would allow them to put more than half a dozen unmarked cars on highways to spot for aggressive and drunk drivers. But they say they also need people to be more responsible.
If you know you're going to get behind the wheel, the simplest thing to do is not drink. Have a designated driver.
DPD says it's an age-old message, but say people still drink and drive, and sometimes the consequences are deadly. In Dallas, I'm Rebecca Lopez.
All right, and again, that story came from WAFF 48, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound. And obviously, you can hear the distraught witness right there. She herself probably thought that she was going to end up dying that night, but 3 people arrested, 2 people killed. How can this kind of stuff happen? How can this kind of stuff happen? And yet we know by years and years of PSAs, years of TV commercials, years of people telling us, don't drink and drive. Don't do this because these are the consequences. This is the stuff that could happen. And yet we are not even close, really, in the heart of the holidays. Granted, today is the 14th of December. Guaranteed, and I hate to do this, but I'm going to let you guys know right now. By the time December 31st, or even farther than that, let's push it up to January 4th of 2020, or 2022, I should say. Mark my words, there are going to be a substantial number of deaths, DUI crashes, and unnecessary violence within a vehicle, coming from a vehicle that somebody drove after they got behind the wheel. And you know for a fact, I talk about it each and every year. I have talked about it for about 6 years. And does it come true? Yeah. I mean, I can play the audio. It'll take a minute or two to dig it up, but I can play the audio from the last year from the California Highway Patrol, at least what their numbers are. I can also take a little bit of time to dig up what the national tragedies were, the misfortunes, innocent people losing their lives, innocent people, lives turned upside down because somebody thinks it's okay to get behind the wheel after they've had a drink or two. I'm good, don't worry about me. Look at me, I'm so good. No, you're not good. And if you had any kind of friends with you, or you had anybody who really cared about you, they would yank you by the collar and say, look, don't drink and drive. I'll drive you home. You got an Uber, you got Lyft, you got cabs, you got coworkers, you got family members, somebody. Look, 2 people now will not be able to celebrate Christmas this year or ever again. Now, you think about those 2 people, but then now you think about the loss of their families that they are going to be missing, these 2 that just perished because of somebody's stupidity, selfish little freaking act. That's the way it is, and that's the way it's always going to be once you get behind the wheel after you went ahead and had a couple of drinks. It doesn't matter. That's just the way it is each and every time. And no matter what you say or do, you can't turn back the hands of time on this one. You cannot do that. Not one iota. All right, you're listening to DistractedDriversBuster.com, the podcast show. When we come back, a toddler is dead, a mother fighting for her life.
You're listening to the DistractedDrivers.com podcast. We'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived in Philadelphia. Local time is 3:05 p.m. and the temperature is 67 degrees. At this time, you are now free to use your cellular devices.
You know that feeling when you get to turn your phone on after the plane lands? You can have that feeling every time you drive. Make sure your cell phone is stowed away whenever you are behind the wheel.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and catch the bus. Text and miss your stop. Wait. Text and be late to work.
Sorry, I'm late.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi. Oh, hey.
Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Now, back to the DistractedDrivers.com podcast.
All right, welcome back to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. I am your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com, and of course, now this podcast show. You can follow me on Twitter at DistractedDBTV, at DistractedDBTV, and of course on Facebook, it's DistractedDB. You can get the shows on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcasts. Just type in the keyword DistractedDB. You can get not only this show, but all my archive shows. And anybody who is new to Distracted Drivers, Busted.com, the podcast show, send me an instant message. And I have T-shirts and I have a couple of cups that I want to mail out to you. I'll get your information. I'll mail them out to you. Great party gifts and stuff like that. All right. Again, you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. Again, I am your host, Howard Drescher. As I mentioned, I created DistractedDriversBusted.com probably in 2010, 2011, 2012 maybe, just after I was hit by a motorcycle, or after I was hit by a lady who was texting and driving on the 91 freeway westbound while I was riding my motorcycle to work. Needless to say, I did not make it into work that day. And I went home for probably about 10 to 15 days, maybe a little more. And of course, if I would have read Dawn McKay's book, I would have realized that I don't need to hurry up and try to push my way back into work, because I think that kind of messed me up in a way. I was eager to get back, and I was also kind of frustrated, and I was afraid to get behind the wheel in my car, even though that I was hit on my motorcycle. But it's just so crazy. That's just how it is. And if you ever get involved in a crash, there's help out there for you. There's help out there, monetarily, psychologically, and physically. You're going to get the help you need. All right, here's a story that I got. Oh, my God. This is a story that it just kills me to no end, because a toddler, 1.5 years old, shy of his second birthday, and now his mother is fighting for her life. According to a state trooper, a man crossed the center lane, sideswiped a car, and hit one head on, killing the little girl instantly, who she was about to turn 2 in January. In just a couple of weeks, she'd have been 2 years old. This story comes from Fox 5 in Atlanta, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound. And if I hit the right button, here we go.
A Coweta County family is grieving the loss of a toddler who was killed in a head-on DUI crash. Samaya Williams was riding with her mother, who the family says is fighting for her life at an Atlanta medical center. Fox 5's Doug Evans spoke with the family and has more on the man charged in this crash.
I'm just south of Moreland in Coweta County on State Road 41. It's here Saturday night around 9 o'clock that state troopers say Jose Diaz, traveling northbound, crossed the center lane, sideswiped one car, and then plowed right into a car driven by Jada Jackson, killing the young mother's 1-year-old baby. At Mike and Erica Jackson's home in Coweta County, stockings are hung for each of the couple's grandchildren, including Samaya, who would have been 2 years old next month. Wendy Keith is Samaya's aunt.
Like, who would even let somebody leave drunk like that? Or why would even get in the car drunk like that?
30-year-old Jada Jackson and Samaya were traveling together along with Jada's boyfriend when their car was struck head-on. Samaya was killed instantly. Jada was critically injured and flown to an Atlanta hospital. Her boyfriend, a passenger, had minor injuries. Jada's oldest daughter, 6-year-old Kaylee, was not in the car. The State Patrol has charged 30-year-old Jose David Diaz with vehicular homicide, DUI less safe, having an open container of alcohol, serious injury by motor vehicle, and failure to maintain lane. Samaya's family has a message for anyone who gets behind the wheel after drinking.
You can't do it. It's too much pain. It's too much pain. The pain is unbearable. You don't want to take nobody through something like this. You don't want to take nobody through something like this. If you're somewhere and you're drinking and you're driving, call Uber, call your friend, call somebody. Call somebody.
A GoFundMe page is set up to help pay for Samaya's funeral and to assist in Jada's medical bills, which are expected to be extensive. The family says Jada's left arm was nearly severed in the accident. The family has serious questions about why Diaz was on the road that night. And more than answers, they want justice for Samaya and her family. I'm Doug Evans in Coweta County.
Right, again, that story came from Fox 5 in Atlanta, and I appreciate them for allowing me to use the sound. Look, it's bad. It is bad when this kind of stuff happens anytime, not only during the month of December and New Year's, during the holiday times. Why was he driving? Why was he driving drunk? And why was he still operating a vehicle after he had a couple of drinks or whatever he had? It doesn't matter if he had 1 or 21. It doesn't matter. The aspect of this whole thing is now there's a child gone, a mother who's got serious injuries. And it's not something just to, it doesn't affect me. Because it wasn't you or your family today. Could it be tomorrow? I ask myself that all the time. I am so fearful when my family goes out driving. Even when my wife goes out with her friends, I always worry. I want to know if she's okay. I want to know when she gets home. Okay, she's okay. No damage to the car. No, nothing like that. It's just sad to see this kind of stuff happen. And it's happening now during the holiday times when families are supposed to be united together. There's now a family that's ripped apart, and maybe 2 families ripped apart because the mother, her boyfriend, is now slightly injured, and he's going to have trauma, and he's got questions, and nobody's going to be able to give the answers right away. It's just how it is. Why? Why was he there? Are they going to attend the court case? Is somebody going to try to be a shady lawyer and get the guy off and say, well, it wasn't his fault. It was these people's fault. That's what I'm afraid of. That's what I'm afraid of more than anything in the world, when you've got shady characters, ambulance chasers, who will go ahead and try to deceive what it really happened, and to the point where it just totally is disrespectful to the young little girl, the baby girl that died, and her mother, and, of course, the mother's boyfriend. Not to mention about the people they sideswiped, and then they ended up hitting them head on. Come on. How much did the guy drink? How about putting him in jail for a serious length of time and refusing to, give him any kind of bail? He doesn't need to be out. He doesn't. Anyways, it's just so bad. All right, you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com podcast show. And again, I'm your host, Howard Drescher, the creator of DistractedDriversBusted.com. And, of course, now this podcast show. I do appreciate each and every one of you that download and listen to my podcast show. I'm going to be going on vacation here in the middle or the beginning of January in the new year. But I think I'm doing a staycation, if you will. So, therefore, I think I'll be doing more podcast shows. I know I've promised you guys some videos. I'm working on that. I'm not a very video or photogenic kind of person, so you're just going to have to bear with me, people. Anyways, you're listening to DistractedDriversBusted.com, the podcast show. It's great to be back with you guys, and I appreciate everybody who listens. Remember, I don't want to die today. Do you? Don't let anyone take the sands of time within your own hourglass. Until next week, be safe.